Revolutionary love to you all. This is your man Baba, Dr. Brother Samori Kamara. Welcome to another video in our Warrior Teacher Education course, right? African Citizen Educational Training for Warrior Parents. Today we're going to be dealing with a basic day, right? Or as our morning meeting is what gets us started. But we're going to deal with our basic day at Kamali Academy and just maybe at your home school as well. So the first thing we do is our morning meeting. The morning meeting sets the tone for the whole day. We have our circle time where we come together and we do many things. One of the first things we do is libation, right? And we have Dr. Greg Carr here. He does a libation. I think they were in New York at this time. But Dr. Greg Carr is a professor of history at Howard University in Washington, D.C. He does an excellent job of a libation. So let's go ahead and listen to him first.
We'll pour, Ashe. Ashe. We'll pour to the creative spirit, the great Ashe out of which we all emerge, Ashe. Ashe. We pour to that creative spirit by whatever name we know it, whatever name you hold in your heart, in your mind, whatever name your ancestors gave, whatever name you learned as a child, whatever name you believe it to be, whatever name you believe it to be in spirit or in science, Ashe. We pour to the first human beings who came into existence on this planet, the first human beings who raised the first structures, who cooked the first meals, who taught the first children, who had the first children, the first Africans, the first people, who stood upright, who walked, who figured out how to stay on this planet, who figured out how to pass that knowledge on to their children and their children's children, the mothers and fathers of civilization, Ashe. Ashe. We pour the next libation to their grandchildren and their children's children, those who raised the great early civilizations of Kemet and Kush and Monomotapa, the great medieval civilizations of Ghana and Mali and Songhai and Kanem Bornu. We pour to those who the great civilizations of the Igbo people and the Hausa people and the Kikongo people and the Bambara people, the great Mande civilizations, the great Kikongo, the great civilizations of Southern Africa, the Bantu people, the great civilizations of Southeast Africa, the Dinka, the Shilluk, the Noor. We pour to those millions who raised the foundations from which the world would learn what it meant to be human in the world, Ashe. Ashe. We pour to their children who were upon the arrival on the shores of people they had never seen before, found themselves captured and marched overland, found themselves perishing by the millions before they were held on the holding cells and the open air pens on the coast of West, Central, Southern, and East Africa. We pour to the ancestors who did not know as they were stripped of all clothing and sent denuded into boats, packed like animals and strewn their bones across the floor of the Atlantic and the Indian Ocean. We pour to them who in the last moment on Africa grabbed the sand and grabbed the dirt and put it in their mouths and understood that the only thing they might have to preserve their place in that continent was their memory of that place and their ability to pass it on to their children. We pour to them, Ashe. Ashe. We pour to those Africans and their children who finding themselves cast adrift in Santiago, Cuba, who found themselves cast adrift in Porto, Spain, Trinidad, and Port-au-Prince, Haiti, who found themselves cast adrift in New Orleans and Charleston and Mobile, who found themselves cast adrift in Salvador, Bahia, who found themselves cast adrift in Barbados and the archipelago that formed the Wayward and the Windward coast. We found them in these places learning Portuguese and Spanish and French, whose often first words was, "Oh my God, oh Madre de Dios," who found themselves praying to survive and pass on to their children the memories. We pour to those ancestors who are represented in the thousands buried in all the square miles of where we stand, and who sit here buried before us in 400 caskets forged of wood from West Africa with Adinkra symbols. Each one of them, each woman, man, and child, symbolic of millions. The children of those who could not be killed, we pour, Ashe. Ashe. We pour to their children who somehow survived the hells of enslavement and fought for emancipation in the Caribbean, the French, British, Dutch Caribbean, who fought for emancipation in South America, who fought for emancipation in Central America, who fought the struggles we refer to as the Civil War in the United States, who came out of that, marched out of enslavement through Reconstruction, and found themselves making great migrations, eventually ending up in places like New York. Their children's children, who making a way for themselves became our great-great-grandparents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, our parents, Those who, when the first bones were discovered in this space, held their hands and said, "Stop, no more." We are here to speak for those who can no longer speak with their mouths. We pour for those ancestors, some of whom came to Howard University in 2004 and followed these caskets all the way back to New York. We pray to the great ancestors, the ones whose names we know and the ones whose names we don't. And at this moment, as we pour this libation, I would ask anyone who feels comfortable to say the name of someone in your bloodline who is no longer physically here, but who you know made it possible for you to be here. Go ahead, let's hear the names. Haywood Carr,
Porter Griffin,
Thomas Jr.,
Evelyn Glover.
We pour to the names that we hold collectively. Ganga Zumba in Brazil, Toussaint Louverture, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, and Henri Christophe in Haiti. We pour to the great Avengers, Nanny of the Maroons of Jamaica. We pour to the great ancestors, Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, Frederick Douglass. Say the names that you study. Who are the names of the ancestors that you have come to hold in your heart and your mind as you hope that you can do what they did for us, for your children and children's children? Let's say some of those famous names. Malcolm
Kwame
X,
Ture,
Little Hamer,
Honorable Elijah Muhammad,
John Henry Clark, John
Dr.
G.
Khalid
Jackson,
Muhammad,
Jacob Carruthers. And finally, two final libations. We pour to those who make it possible for us to do what we do. We pour to these rangers who stand guardian over this sacred space. We pour to these Africans and these folks who have come from Howard University, the staff, the faculty, the administrators who brought us here today to bear witness. This is not a libation, but an affirmation, because their hearts still beat, their tongues still speak, their minds still think, and their minds still wish the best for us. We pour for all of those people who surrounded us on this journey today and made it possible for us to be here. We pour this affirmation of thanks, Ashe.
Ashe.
And finally, we pour to your children's children's children who will one day stand on this space and speak your name. Ashe.
Man, how powerful is that? Whenever I watch that libation, it always hits me, very hard. And I try to recreate some of that every morning with my warrior scholars at Kamali Academy. But that was a history lesson. That was our story at its finest, right there. So he takes us all the way from the beginning of civilization. Of course, first with the Creator. Whatever name you know in your heart, whatever name you know in your mind, whatever name you know in your spirit, first and foremost. And then we go into, for us, Sesaya, Mother Earth, right? Whose land we walk on, right? Whose food we eat. And we go into many of our ancestors who have gone before us. Then we go to some of those folks who are with us here today. And then we also pour libation to those who are yet to come, those who are yet unborn. And if you understand anything about African culture, you know that African people revere and honor those who have gone, those who are here, and those who are yet to come. That is our past, present, and future, right? And so this is something that I believe we all should start our day with. It is like a prayer. It is a remembrance of those who have come before. African wisdom teaches us that, your name shines above the grave. And so as long as people are still calling your name, you never die. So we must call the names of our ancestors. Our children should know the names of their ancestors, our collective ancestors, and those, like he said, who are in our own bloodline, who have gone before us and made it possible for us to be here. They must revere their name so they can continue their legacy. Right? Such a beautiful thing to do. You might not be able to start off like Dr. Greg Carr, but just start off with, of course, giving thanks and honor to the Creator, to Mother Earth or Sesaya, the deities, as well as the collective ancestors and your personal ancestors and those who are yet to come. Right? So after the libation, we move on to our pledges and our affirmations. And so we have a video from a couple of years ago with some of our students doing some of those things.
The seed of my ancestors, I'm the hope of today. I'm the builder for those unborn. I'm the Lord of African way. What is your purpose? To use my personal skills and talents for the benefit of my community. To make up others first and build emotional African unity. Where are you from? is my song. You can't stand it wrong. I'm African to the bone. Birth is not the beginning, and death is not the end. I am because we are. Together we shall win.
Together we shall win. So we don't pledge allegiance to the United States of America flag. We pledge allegiance to the red, black, and green. So this is our pledge.
We pledge allegiance to the red, black, and green, our flag, the civil rights term struggles, and it's a land we must obtain. One nation of black people, one God us all. To unite struggles for black love, black freedom, and black self-determination.
That's right. All right. We teach our children certainly a knowledge of themselves. We teach them to think black, to talk black, and to act black, right? We also teach them the ABCs. So go ahead on to your ABCs.
A is for Africa, land where our ancestors are from. B is for build, step by step, one by one. C is for create, to make things better. D is for determination, won't give up ever. E is for example, to be what we believe. F is for focus, to pay attention to our needs. G is for growth, to change from good to better. H is for history, being put to the test. I is for identity, African people are we. J is for journey, our mind from land to sea. K is for knowledge, to fill our minds. And L is for love, of self and kind.
M is for many,
for young and old. N is for nation, our own land to control. O is for organize, get it together.
And P is for power.
The more, the better. Q is for question of how, what, where, why, and when. R is for reliance, to be strong from beginning to end.
S is for struggle.
Fight our enemies toe to toe.
And T is for teach.
Pass on to our people where we know.
U is for unity.
Together we'll day and night.
V is for values.
Build wrong from right. W is for work, which
Is our best hope.
S is for the unknown, which is the need. Y is for youth, the future are we. And Z is for zero, which is all we get.
We get nothing. So we had a couple of them. Let's go ahead on. Come on up. You go, Keely. You go first. Come on up. Come on up. Come on up. Wait. Go ahead. Yes.
It's just like when you have some coffee that's too black, which means it's too strong. What do? You integrate it with cream. You make it weak. But if you pour too much cream, you won't even know you ever had coffee. It used to be hot, it becomes cool. It used to be strong, it becomes weak. It used to wake you up, now it puts you to sleep.
It'll put you to sleep. What? All right. Sister Ya.
In my conclusions, as Ms. Kimball pointed out, the brothers and the sisters in Mississippi are being beaten and killed for no particular reason. Nobody can give you freedom, equality, or justice. If you're a man, you take it. If you can't take it, you don't deserve it. Nobody can give it to you.
Brother Ubani.
He doesn't see any progress that he made since the Civil War. He sees not one hour of progress because, number one, if the Civil War had freedom, he would need civil rights legislation today. And if the Emancipation Proclamation issued by the great shining liberal called Lincoln had freedom, who would it be singing, "We shall overcome today"? And if the amendments to the Constitution had solved his problem would still be here with us today. And if the Supreme Court desegregation decision of 1955 genuinely and sincerely designed to solve his problem would still be here with us today.
This is only a couple of the Kamali Academy Warriors. Thank you very much.
And so that was our pledge. Our pledge to the red, black, and green flag, not the red, white, and blue flag. It's not our flag, right? We also heard some of our affirmations. We start with, who are you? I'm a seed of my ancestors. I'm the hope of today. I'm a builder for those unborn. I am a promoter of an African way. We also had our ABCs, as you saw. So all of those are right below here. You can download all of our affirmations, our ABCs, and really our morning meeting things that we do. So moving forward, well, those things, those morning, those affirmations, those pledges really get us started. I mean, you got the libation, and then you have those those affirmations and the ABCs, those things by themselves are very powerful to get our day started on a real on an African centered footing. To remind our children who we are, where we come from, and what we are here to do for those who are yet to come. Next, we do a daily proverb. And proverbs are so very important when it comes to the education of African people, or just education in general when you talk about African people on the continent or even here. The African proverbs are our collective wisdom, our collective morals, our collective character building. So we use proverbs very extensively in Kamali Academy, and recently we had a proverb off, African proverb off, or African proverb B, like a spelling bee, except for we go back and forth with the African proverbs. And in this recent spelling African proverb B we had, the students, we got up to about 60 proverbs. And with the last two students, I mean, they were going back and forth. I mean, it was like a championship fight. And we were like, wow, they coming up with them, off their dome, proverbs that, that I've taught them over the years. And it's just beautiful that they can remember these proverbs. But the most important thing about African proverbs is when you begin to see it exhibited in their behaviors and their actions, and when they can use those African proverbs in the right situation. So we have some students, sometimes you'll hear students say, "Man, this is too hard, man. I don't know how to do this," right? And you have another child that tell them, "Well, look, man, when in order to climb a tree, you must start at the bottom." Right? You gotta start. You gotta begin small. You can't start at the top. You don't get frustrated. Work your way up to the top, little by little. Or like another young brother would say, you eat an elephant one bite at a time. I've heard we will go to the park sometimes, and I heard a student who doesn't go to our school. He said something about, I don't really like history. That's one of my, I don't really like that class. And one of my students, one of the Kamali Academy Warrior scholars, told him, "Look, man, a tree without roots cannot stand." As such, right? I don't think he said as such, but he was like, so if we don't know our story, we don't know our history, then we gonna be doomed. And we see what's going on in our community right now, you know. And so when we use those proverbs are so very important, and we must use proverbs. Not only should we teach it to our children, but we must live them. And here's a proverb you see here: a fool speaks, the wise man listens. Right? That is teaching our young people. Listen, you got two ears and one mouth for a reason, as the old folks used to say. Right? You should listen as twice as much as you talk. And in that listen, in that silence, there's reflection, there is thought. When you're speaking, you can't learn anything new. And so we try to teach our young ones how to be quiet, how to listen attentively, and how to seek knowledge and seek wisdom from those who know more than them at the time. And as African wisdom teaches us also, an elder can see farther sitting down than a child who is sitting in the tree. Ashe? So we move on. We do our libation. We do our pledges and our affirmations and our ABCs, and we do our African proverb, and we keep it moving, right? So we have our circle time, and sometimes we'll even do a little light exercise and a little bit of stretching. Sometimes we even do a little African dance, get the drum out there, and just get moving to get our juices flowing, right? Also doing our morning ritual, we sing the Black National Anthem. We put our fists high in the sky, and we sing it like we mean it, right? And we lift all of our voices and we sing. Also, sometimes in the morning we'll get started with our reading time, and just again being silent, listening, reflecting. So we start with the reading, allow the students to choose whatever book they like to choose, and at least it's on their level or a little bit above their level, and allow them to begin to cultivate the love of reading. We can't teach our children to love reading by having them read stuff only that we want them to read. It doesn't work like that. I didn't learn to love reading until I was thinking maybe a sophomore in college, and I was an English major. But I didn't learn to love reading until I was a sophomore in college. And when I began to read books I wanted to read about. And so as I began to read books I wanted to read about and devour them, I also at the same time developed the ability to sit quietly, right? And read. And so when I really developed that ability, guess what? Reading for class was no problem anymore, right? And so we would have our reading time, sometimes about 30 minutes early in the morning to get our minds right in that way as well, right? Some families, they use that time and say, okay, this is your chores, this is your chore. Make sure you vacuum the floor. Make sure you clean up the bathroom. Make sure you sweep. So also you can use your morning ritual and have that as a part of your morning ritual as well, right? Another thing that we do outside of the proverb, which gets us, and we also think about the meanings of those proverbs, but also asking the question, what are you grateful for? Right? We have had some very good answers to those questions, and it's a question that really allows for reflection to think about. Our children can get so tied up in what they don't have that they don't remember, and adults as well, right? That they don't remember what they do have, that many other people don't have at this very moment. So it's a very good question to start your day off with. What are you grateful for, right? And also we play a couple games. One of the games we do is storytelling. So we'll be in a circle and we'll have one person start a story, right? Once upon a time, there was a little boy named Lumumba. He lived in a far off village, period, right? Then the next person has to continue the story. When Lumumba was only 8 years old, his father came to him and said, "My son, you will be a great warrior for your people," right? And you just keep on going. And we have found that they definitely create some hilarious stories, but also sometimes some profound lessons. And you'll be surprised how students will pull out some of those African proverbs to tie into the story. It's also is a very beautiful thing. Another game we like to play in the morning is 7 Up. And so in a group you might have, I guess you got to have a couple more folks, but you might have a group of students together, and one person starts it, say one, next person two, three, all around the circle. But the object of the difference, instead of just saying numbers, is that in 7 Up, whenever you get to a number that has a multiple of 7 or has a 7 in it, so a multiple of 7, 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, or a number with 7 in it, like 7, 17, 27, 37, all those kind of things and so on, you have to say the word up. So we go around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then it's the person who has to say 7. They have to remember to say actually say up instead of 7. And when they say up, the order reverses. So let's say I'm number 6. So I say, somebody next to me says 5, and then I say 6, and the person who's supposed to say, who falls on 7, he's supposed to say up. So once he says up, I have to say 8 because it reverts right back to me, and then it keeps on going back around until we get to 14 and 21 and 17 and all those kind of things. Check it out. Very fun game to get the juices flowing as well. It's about attentiveness. It's about listening again, right? And it's about knowing your 7 timetable as well if they don't know them already. All right, so we'll keep it moving. The next is scheduling. First thing you want to do with your schedule is you got to plan your subjects, right? And so again, this is just going to be a brief overview. So some of the subjects you want to cover when your child is, between ages of, kindergarten or grades kindergarten to second. You want to deal with reading, you want to deal with writing, you want to deal with, basic math. You definitely want to be talking about our story and having them identify some of our greatest warriors and their stories. You want to do science, you want to do music, you want to do art, and you want to do foreign language. And of course, for us, the foreign language I think we should be learning is some African languages. Swahili is one of the ones that we do. We also do Tree, which is the most popular language in the West African country of Ghana. And we're trying to get there pretty soon as a school, as I've been there a couple times already, right? For the 3 through 6th grade, 3rd through 6th grade, you want to do those same things, but add in the grammar and the spelling, right? And maybe a physical education class. But of course, maybe we don't necessarily need a special time just for physical education. Just go and let your children have fun and run and play. I mean, every day, children. I think it's been scientifically proven that children need about, I mean, they say quote unquote 28 minutes of outside time a day, right? Where we let our children, go out, an hour, at least an hour a day, at least just for the vitamin D factor, right? When the students are in 7th or 8th grade, you want to continue all those things with the grammar, spelling, and all that, but you want to add logic. And then logic is one of the things that can teach our children how to think. That's most important because we don't know what the future is going to hold, right? We don't know what they will need to know, but we need to teach them how to think and of course how to learn as well. And how to think is very, very important. And one of the ways I help my students to learn how to think is to question more answers than answering questions. Understand? Questioning more answers, questioning their answers. So they say, one children said something about cheese comes from the rain or something. I don't know. And I was like, so are you sure? Cheese comes from rain, right? Where does cheese come from? I think it comes from the rain. So what comes from cows, right? So you begin to question their answers and have them go deeper into what you're talking about to try to get down to maybe more something that's more like the correct answer, or just to get them to think a little bit more. We definitely need to teach our children how to think and how to learn. I think logic is a very good way of doing that. So when you get to the so-called high school years, you want to add higher mathematics, you want to add the literature, you want to continue with different electives, right? And so also I would add to that apprenticeships. We know that our older students should be leaving the home, should be going out and exploring more and doing apprenticeships so they can see what they love to do. Right? They might have a passion. We have one student right now who has a passion for food. So we got him an apprenticeship at a black restaurant, which is gourmet cooking under a master chef, and he's loving it. He goes there 2 days a week. On Tuesdays and actually on Saturdays he goes over there, and it's been one of the most exciting and knowledgeable experiences he's ever had in his life. And he's already talking about creating his own restaurant. Now imagine if he stays with that chef for 2-3 years. Why couldn't he create his own restaurant? Why would he need to go to somebody's school to validate him when he has already had the experience and has learned a great deal about how to cook food, the sanitation, how to run a restaurant from a master chef, right? So we think our children should definitely, you should include, if you have high school children, ways to get them apprenticeships. And you should know some folks. If you don't, look around. I'm sure you can find some people who are businesses who are willing to allow your child to come over and learn and apprentice and follow and shadow people who have jobs or careers that they are interested in. Continue with the scheduling. You want to gather your materials. So one of the first things to do, and I'm sure many of you, can remember doing this if you've already started homeschooling, or you're probably doing it right now if you're thinking about getting started. But just going and searching for freebies and stuff online, right? And bookmarking sites. There's so many things out there. There's a number of Book of Face or Facebook groups that do a very good job of putting out that information of things that are free, that are discounted, that can help you along your homeschooling journey. Also, I would say buy a couple books and supplies and just get started, right? Just go ahead on and say, look, this is what I'm gonna start with. You ain't gotta go and buy a whole bunch of stuff. Remember, you are the first teacher in the first place, right? And many of these schools have all the best things that they could have, but they're not teaching our children, right? So if you start with a couple workbooks, and the beauty of the universe is that when you begin to take steps forward towards your goals and towards your vision, it seems like the universe conspires to make your dream happen, or make what you're trying to do come to fruition. So just go ahead on and get started. Another thing you might want to do when you're scheduling is to just get away for a little bit. You might want to take a weekend away. You just want to get rid of the distractions. You might want to take an afternoon, just go to the library and just really, really think about what are your goals for your children? What kind of people do you want them to be? Right? What are some of their interests, and how you can, schedule those into your schedule, right? So you can make their education really an education for liberation, an education that is centered on who they are as an African child, right? The next thing you want to do at the same time maybe is grab your books. Grab the books that maybe grab the book that you've already bought and figure out how many times you need to teach that class per week, right? And so an easy way to do that, let's say a book has 120 lessons. Let's just say it's a grammar book, right? And you know that there's 36 weeks in a so-called regular public full system schedule, a school year. So you say, you know what? Divide 120 by 36. You're going to get about 3.33. Just keep on going, right? 3.33. So that's about 3 times or 4 times a week that you need to teach that class in order to, or do those lessons in order to finish that by the end of the school year, right? And again, all these things can be mixed and matched. And in fact, I would say mix and match and bring many of those classes together. So we have here just for you just to get a better understanding of how things can work out. You might want to do math 4 to 5 times a week. Do reading and phonics depending on where the child is, how old the child is, what so-called grade level that they're in. You might want to do that 5 days a week. You might want to do handwriting or copy work. And many times after we do our proverb in the morning, we have our youngest students come in and copy those proverbs down, working on their penmanship, working on their punctuation, working on their handwriting as well, right? We also, might want to do grammar 3 to 4 times a week or 3 to 4 days a week, do spelling, do writing 2 to 3 times a week, our story 3 to 5 times a week. And again, that should be our story, writing, it should be everywhere, right? All across your so-called curriculum. Science 2 to 3 times a week, foreign language 2 to 4 times a week, art 2 to 3 times a week, and logic. And again, I say that it should be holistic. You should try to marry as many of those subjects as possible. Look at the picture, the upper left, the European compartments. Europeans, this is a food tray, right? Europeans always compartmentalize things and separate things from each other. So you got your meat and your potatoes, you got your math and science here, you got your English over here, you have your physical education in this compartment, you have your grammar in this compartment. You have all these things are just separated when they shouldn't be. As African people, we are holistic people in the first place. We look at the whole and we break that whole down into its component parts, but we always deal with the whole. So you look at the African soup. Ain't no compartments. You know what I'm saying? Everything is in the same bowl. Now things might stick out. They don't lose their integrity. So you still get the sweet potato. You still get the snap peas. You still get the carrots. You still get those things, right? But they're all together. They're one, and that's what we must work to make our subjects connect. So if we're dealing with our story, there's science in there as well. If we're dealing with our story, there's art in there as well. There's math in there. There's music in there. There's logic in there. There's all of these other things right there. There's writing in there. So we can connect all those things instead of trying to get our children, okay, now it's math time. Now it's science time. Now it's our story time. No, marry those things so that our children can see their connections and begin to think in a holistic way as well, and not in European compartments. All right, so we continue here. Write it all down. Get yourself together. Schedule your classes by order. So you might want to say English. We're gonna do English first, and we're gonna do math, and we're gonna do science, and we're gonna take it. We're gonna take it as long as we need to. Or you can do it by time. You say from 9:30 to 10:30, we're gonna do math. 10:30 to 11:30, we're going to do reading, whatever, right? It is on you. Again, the beauty about homeschooling is that, guess what? You choose your own schedule. You do it how you see fit that you need to do it, right? We would include breaks, especially with people with younger children. I gotta pump the brakes on some things because I need to go and lay down my 2-year-old so she can take her nap. And then we can get back to what we were doing before. Might even want to take breaks to do a couple of chores also, right? Now after you've got everything together, you You want to type it up and post it all around the house so everybody knows what's going on. And again, this is about you. Maybe you don't work like that. Maybe you don't want to just put up a schedule on what this is how we. Nah, it doesn't have to be rigid. It could be go with how you feel. You know what you want your children to know. You know how they learn best. You know where they learn best. You know what time of day they learn best. And so use your ability to check that out and move in the way that you feel like you need to move. All right. Next thing is definitely develop a personal library. Right. Invest in some bookshelves or look, even create them. That's a great way to teach your children a practical skill. Right. Little carpentry or something like that. Also, as we know, start small and expand as you go because this is going to be where not only you continue your study, but also your children will continue their study as well. You're going to pass these books on to them, or they can have also their books that they use for school right there. When books get out of hand, when books are all over the floor, when books are all over the house, you can have a librarian, for that week or for that day, take care of the books and keep them where they're supposed to be. All right. Another idea is to have school boxes. School boxes is a box that include all of the boxes, books and supplies that a child needs for that day. Right. And it's very, very portable. So when your 7-year-old son sits down, he has a pencil. It's already in the box. He has his paper. It's already in the box. He has his workbook. It's already in the box. He has everything he needs, and it's right there. And so let's say you want to go to the black bookstore up the street to learn. You want to go to the park today to learn. You go ahead and grab that school box, and y'all out the door. Right. Very, very good. Very, very good way to keep things organized, to keep things smooth, and just keep it moving. Really. So we have a basic day here. We do our breakfast. We do our morning ritual. We do some lessons until lunch. Have lunch, a few more lessons, and then we go on outside, do some art, do some dance. Right. But I'm really trying to find a way to infuse art into everything that we do. I'm trying to infuse dance in everything that we do. Right. They say that you retain more, when you're moving around. Not when you're just sitting still, at even on the sofa, on the floor, in the desk, or whatever you have, right? And so even just taking a walk while you learn your lessons may help your children a great deal. All right, so a brief review. In the morning, start with that libation. You probably should check out Dr. Carr's libation, more than once. I really enjoy it. I definitely check it out here and there. All right. We do our affirmations. And again, that is right below. We can download what we do in our morning meeting. We have our circle time, of course. We have our scheduling. You know how to get that together. Use your creativity. Use your kaumba. You're not on anybody else's schedule when you're doing your schedule. Remember that, right? Get your personal library started if you don't already have one. As they say, poor people have big TVs. Rich people have large libraries. Right, and so definitely want to get those books so that your children can have stuff to read as they grow. All right, so there you have it. That's our review. That's a basic day. This is our morning meeting. Those are our affirmations. I hope that this has helped you in some way. Thank you for being here in the Warrior Teacher course. I'll see you next time. Revolutionary love.